We're at the end, and Tom and Megan get together to visit on the series finale of WandaVision. I know you'll enjoy it. And here she is, Megan Dougherty, as promised. We are going to take up WandaVision Episode 9, entitled The Series Finale. So, appropriately so. Welcome back, Megan.
Thank you for having me. I'm so glad to be here.
So, obviously lots going on here, action-packed, some pretty thoughtful scenes, some philosophical scenes. Where do you want to start?
I want to start with guessing your favorite scene from this episode. You can tell me if I'm right or wrong, but I think your favorite was when the Vision and the White Vision were having their fight and they had the argument about the ship of Theseus. Am I correct?
Spot on.
I knew it! I was watching that, and it was this is one of my favorite episodes, so I watched it multiple times. And I was just thinking, Tom is eating this up. He loves this. And you probably know all about the ship of Theseus and where it falls in philosophical history, don't you?
I do.
Yeah.
I do. And so you're right. I did love it. I love thinking about it. I love going back and researching the ship of Theseus. I even enjoyed thinking about the Greek character Theseus, although he's unrelated to the ship of Theseus, except having owned the ship or sailed it at one point. The ship of Theseus philosophical question asks, if the planks on the ship of Theseus rot and you replace them, and you have to replace so many, you end up replacing the entire ship, do you still have the ship of... And when you think about Wanda's vision in this series and the White Vision in this series, I think it's a fair question to ask. And let me start with Wanda's vision, because we have debated whether he is a sentient character or being. We have explored whether he exists only in Wanda's mind, whether he's a projection, perhaps a character that she created, but because of his own evolution, sentient evolution, has gone in directions she doesn't understand or can't control. Perhaps all of the above or none of the above. But he's not the Vision that Tony Stark and Jarvis created way back when. Or is he? It was just a great way to look at it, and I firmly believe that you are who you say you are. And if you want to be Vision, well, you can be Vision. You can both not be Vision and be Vision at the same time, which is the conclusion the White Vision comes to, I think.
Schrodinger's Vision.
Schrodinger's Vision. Yes, that was my favorite. It was very delicious. And also, what I really enjoyed was how Wanda's vision helped the White Vision work through those logical steps as they are having this massive fight in the sky. And because he keeps asking the White Vision questions that the White Vision, as a computer, finds no logical answer to. And so he has to figure out some other way. It was almost like calculate to the last decimal the value of pi while we're having this fight, by the way. So I thought that structure was really cool. And at the end, the White Vision goes off for other adventures of which we don't know, but he is not the evil killing machine that he was when he first appeared.
Or that he was intended to be when he was created. The
White Vision, I don't think, was a construct of Wanda's mind. He came from the outside, Hayward, exactly, and that led to different consequences for Wanda's vision as well. So what were your thoughts around the ship of Theseus?
I liked it. I thought it was Vision, the character, and maybe Paul Bettany, the actor, doing what he does best. He was being so Vision. Having this fight, reluctantly, he's never seemed to be like, loves the fight guy. Seeing another creature who's very much like him, or what he used to be or would have been or had been in the previous reality, and just not being okay with the fundamental wrongness of this potentially sentient creature being programmed as a weapon. Not cool. Vision's gonna fix that. And then he did it in the most elegant way possible. So I thought it was delightful. And I like that it was so possible to circumvent that programming. I thought that was really cool. You design or you create something that powerful. I think that they were saying one way or another, you can't control it. Or you can't control it entirely. And I thought that was really well done. And sky fights. Oh, 2 thumbs up. Let's always have sky fights. There were some great sky fights in this episode.
It was the first half, or I don't know, a large chunk of the first part was a great sky fights. And this, we're not talking about the visions.
Let's talk about
the witches, Wanda and Agatha. So here, as I tried to articulate in the last episode, I thought that Agatha was necessary for Wanda to get out of her grief. But here we find that Agatha really does have nefarious motives because she somehow has recognized or known of the innate power within Wanda, even without Wanda knowing it. And she wants to unleash that power and then steal it. Given what we've seen of Agatha, probably for no good. I had less sympathy for Agatha in this one because I thought she really reached full flower as an evil character. You still love her?
I do. I respect the right of a villain to just be a villain in comic book movies. But the archetype, I think, that she was being written as, or she was playing as, is there are people who have power and don't deserve it. And there are people who think I should have that power instead. And whether that's good or bad or neutral, that is a recognizable and interesting archetype. So I thought that was pretty cool. I like that, just the way she played it. She was never dour, no super self-important monologues. She was hilarious the entire time. The fights were epic, and she really she wanted what Wanda had and was going to do everything she could to take it. I thought it was fun without taking too much of the emotional heavyweight stuff away from Wanda. I think if Agnes had been, and I'm just thinking about this more now actually as I'm saying it, if she had been as nuanced a character as Wanda, I think, what you said earlier, it would have become the Agatha show. And I think if they had made her more of a sympathetic villain, we wouldn't have cared so much about what was happening to Wanda and Vision.
My second favorite part of this episode was actually the part involving Monica. Because, as we mentioned, I think in episode 7, Monica got her superpowers. And so she's primed to go off and join the Marvel Cinematic Universe on her own. And guess who comes calling? The Krulls. And they need some. And when you think back to Captain Marvel and the role the Krulls played, how they ended up being the victims, and how Captain Marvel herself went out of her way to save them, I just thought that was so great. And I can't wait to see what Monica does with the Krulls, wherever they end up, and whether it's back on Earth or somewhere else. Because one of the lines from the original series we did on the movies that has always struck me was when Captain Marvel says, not every universe has the Avengers. And when she left after the blip, and Natasha tries to chide her for leaving just when we needed you the most, she said, not every universe has the Avengers. And the Krulls have someone they can call on. And now it's Monica. I hope it's Captain Marvel in the future, because I loved her. But if it's not Captain Marvel for contractual reasons or others.
Putting up my wishes to the universe right now for a team-up movie?
Absolutely.
I would like that, please.
Absolutely. So anyway, I just had to talk about Monica a little bit.
Oh, there's some other great moments with her too. I think as at the end of episode 8, she had been trapped by fake Pietro, and you get to see a little bit more of that in episode 9, where he's hanging out being the worst boyfriend. Far too many of us have had to date, not letting her out of the house, giving, I think, a little bit of a taste of what it was like for the residents of Westview, to be able to kind of maybe see what was going on, but not be able to engage with the world other than in the space where she was contained. And she was able to figure out that fake Pietro was actually this guy, Ralph Bond, freed him somehow from his spell. And breaking the necklace, that was it. I thought that was really interesting. And I loved her little just moment later on with the twins, after a fantastic part when Wanda says, kids, we didn't prepare you for this, but you were born for it. Just handle the military. Great. So good. But then Monica comes in, stops them from being shot by awful Hayward. And they just acknowledge each other's, yeah. Cool magic, cool trick. I was like, that's such a 10-year-old boy thing. I love it. Cool trick. Cool trick.
So what about the residents of Westview? Were you satisfied with the way it ended for them?
I think I was. And we finally got a firm answer on what happened to the kids. And where were the kids all day, every day, silently stuck in their room. Ooh, creepy. The depth of pain, I think, that the Westview residents experienced was really touching. And
right.
Wanda's response to learning about that, she maybe had started to realize, yes, she was controlling. She did create this. She never intended to hurt anyone that badly. and she was horrified by the idea that she had done. I think that was really interesting. And then, of course, we learned completely that when the hex goes, so does her family. They're part of it. Whether they're sentient or acting on their own or not, one cannot exist without the other.
Actually, I saw her beginning to understand how she may have hurt others while not intending to, as a part of working through the grief. Because for her, grief was so overpowering, she couldn't see anything else. And this, for me, was one more evidence or indicia of that. I guess the big question is, did the ending episode really satisfy you in terms of ending the show, giving us a lot to think about, and wrapping things up in a nice bow?
Well, yes and no. The defeat of Agatha is fantastic. Loved it, with the throwing back the lesson about the runes, epic sky battle with energy balls flowing here, and about everything you want in a epic fight between powerful witches. But then there's coming to terms with the hex has to go, and knowing what that means for her family, her home, and everything. Ultimately making the objectively right decision. And that would have been fantastic. It would have been a really good ending, I think, as emotional and heartfelt and serious as it needed to be, if it weren't for that dang post-credit scene. What was your take on the ending?
I really like Agent Wu at the
yes.
end. He comes in and he's apparently in charge, although in charge of what, we're not sure, and where he's going to take it, we're even not sure. It had to end, I think, the way it did, because we now know the Scarlet Witch appears in a movie. The metaverse, I guess we'll get to that at some point, but it was just, I was very satisfied. I expected a cliffhanger. I expected some known unknowns and some unknown unknowns, and I got all of that. For me, the resolution with Vision was perfect, so I really like that, and just, it all worked for me.
Very good. It was definitely, as I think it was because it was the first TV series that had been released post Endgame. Like, it was a strong effort from Marvel. I thought it was a wonderful series.
I can't remember if Loki was filmed. I can't remember when Loki was filmed.
Yeah, I know WandaVision was released first. I think it was. That was 2021. That year was a blur.
All kind of a blur. We'll figure that out. I really enjoyed doing this series with you, Megan. I really learned a lot visiting with you, and I loved your perspective. I'm not quite sure what we'll do next. Maybe we should go do Doctor Strange and Thor, and then come back and do Clint. And
oh, yeah. I haven't watched Hawkeye yet.
Yeah. Any final thoughts for our audience?
No, thanks for being with us on this journey, everybody. This was a good one. If you are feeling mentally unhinged, seek help so that you don't create a giant hex and trap all your friends in it. And also, it's the good thing to do.
I hope you've enjoyed listening or watching this podcast series on WandaVision as much as Megan and I have enjoyed visiting about it and bringing it to you. It was a ton of fun. If you haven't rewatched it recently, I would urge you to do so. Megan and I are going to take a break for a couple of weeks, and then we'll be back taking a look at 2 Marvel Cinematic Universe movies that were released in the summer of 2022, Doctor Strange in the Metaverse, and Thor, Love and Thunder. Until then, the podcast series, Because That's What Heroes Do, is a production of the Compliance Podcast Network.